Welcome back to the Valley of the Suns podcast. I'm your host, Kory Miller. This is your Rookie Watch podcast for the week of January 8th through the 14th. The Suns played 3 games again this week. They were home on Sunday, the 8th, against Cleveland, before traveling to Mexico City for 2 games later in the week against Dallas and San Antonio. The Suns fell short in a furious comeback against Cleveland, lost to Dallas, but then had a great win to finish the week against San Antonio. Marquese Chriss had the bulk of the minutes for the Suns rookies this week, as per usual. He played 33 minutes in the game against Cleveland, going 4 from 11 from the field, including 1 for 2 from three-point range. He finished with 12 points, 3 boards, 4 assists, 3 blocks, a single turnover, and a +5 for the game. Against Dallas, he played 23 minutes, going 4 for 6 from the field, including 3 for 4 from three-point range, with 13 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 turnover, with a -16. Against the Spurs on Saturday, he dropped to only 15 minutes and only shot 2 for 6 from the field, including 1 for 4 from behind the arc. He finished with 5 points and 5 rebounds and had 4 personal fouls. He was +1 for that game. Total for the week, Chriss averaged 23.7 minutes, shot 43.4% from the field, including 50% from three-point range, averaged 10 points, 1 turnover a game, and totaled a -10 in those 3 games. He had a pretty decent shooting week, great three-point numbers. I was really impressed with his low turnovers per game. That's kind of been one issue that I think he's struggled with at times this year, and he only had 1 in each of the 3 games this week, so that's really good to see. Personal fouls are unfortunately still an issue with him. That should improve with more experience and more knowledge of the NBA game, but I think that's going to be something he's going to struggle with for his first couple years in the league. I was really pleased to see that Chriss was on the floor in the game against Cleveland for so long. The Suns had a great comeback against the defending champions, and to have a young guy like Chriss on the floor for the bulk of that game I think is invaluable experience and really important for a young player to understand that you need to compete every night in this league no matter who the opponent is. Overall, I thought it was a good week for Chriss. His consistency is slowly improving, and his shooting has gotten a little bit better. And if he can continue to understand the NBA game a little bit more and cut down on some of his fouls, I think he'll be able to stay on the court longer, which should aid his development for the rest of the season. Dragan had a few nice bounce-back games after a rough week last week. In the game against Cleveland, he played 12 minutes, shooting 2 for 5 from the field, including 1 for 3 from behind the arc. He had 5 points, 3 rebounds, an assist, a steal, a block, 1 turnover, and was -9 for the game. Against Dallas, he only played 8 minutes, going 1 for 3 from the field, including 1 for 2 from three-point range. He again had 5 points, this time with just a rebound and a block. He had 2 turnovers, but was +3 for the game. Saturday night against the Spurs, he jumped up to 21 minutes and went 2 for 4 from the field. Both of those were 3-point field goals. He had 6 points, 6 rebounds, an assist, no turnovers, and was +6 for the game. Total for the week, he averaged 13.7 minutes. He shot 41.7% from the field. He also shot 50% from 3. He averaged 5.3 points a game, 1 turnover per game, and he had a even +- for those 3 games. The most encouraging thing I've seen out of Dragan recently is that his three-point shot has vastly improved since the beginning of the year. It seemed back in the summer league and at the beginning of the season that he just couldn't hit a shot from behind the arc, and he's definitely been working on it as it shows, and I think it'll really help his game because defenders are going to have to close out a bit tighter on him, which will give him a little bit more time to get by and make something happen in the paint. Another thing I noticed this week is even though it's a small sample size, Dragan has proven that he's able to fill up the stat sheet in a game and really contribute in all areas. I know this is a bit of a stretch for this point in his career, but I'm starting to see a little bit of the Greek freak in him, in the sense that he can shoot, he can drive, he can play defense, he has a pretty high basketball IQ, he's pretty athletic, he just needs to start putting the pieces together and get minutes and get experience. But I'm very excited with where he is right now and how he's been progressing, especially in the last month or so. What I would specifically like to see from him to finish out the year is to continue to earn more playing time. on a nightly basis and also show that he can improve consistently. He had a couple really good games about 2 weeks ago and then had a really rough week last week, the first week of January. But he bounced back again this week, and although he didn't have maybe a great game, he had a couple really solid performances. And if he can just show that he can improve piece by piece, little by little on a nightly basis, I think that would be really encouraging as he wraps up his first NBA season. Tyler Ulis played in 2 of the 3 games this week for the Suns. He got a DNP for the game against the Cavs. He did play in both games in Mexico City. In the first game against Dallas, he played 6 minutes, was 0 of 3 from the field, had a rebound, no turnovers, and was +4 for the game. And then Saturday against the Spurs, he had what I think is one of his best games so far this season. He played 14 minutes, shot 4 of 6 from the field, scored 8 points, had 1 turnover, and was +2 for the game. Total in those 2 games, he averaged 10 minutes, shot 44.4% from the field, only had 1 turnover between the 2 games, and was +6. As a backup point guard, I think those last 2 numbers are probably the ones we want to look at. I love the fact that he's not turning the ball over and that he's consistently putting a positive +- on the board. Again, I think one of his best, if not the best games of the season was the game Saturday night against the Spurs. He showed that he's able to run the offense off the bench in absence of Knight, who was out for the game with a wrist injury. Unfortunately, his minutes are going to stay inconsistent if Knight isn't dealt, as Knight is going to be the primary guard off the bench and kind of just moves Ulis 1 spot further down. But if Knight is moved sometime between now and the trading deadline, I'm hopeful that Ulis is going to have the opportunity to earn more consistent minutes on a nightly basis to finish out the season. And I'm very interested to see what he's able to do with consistent minutes, because he's shown he's been able to play in stretches, but I'm not sure if we've seen enough of him to really understand what his potential in this league might be. That'll do it for this edition of the Rookie Watch podcast from Valley of the Suns. We'll be back next week with another look at how the rookies are progressing this season. Until then, feel free to drop by the site to catch all of the Phoenix Suns analysis, news, and opinions from all of our writers. And if you have any questions or comments, please send us an email at votsuns@gmail.com. That's votsuns@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.